The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
All right, it's episode number 36, and it is 110 days until the man burns as of this recording. Big announcement, huge announcement. We are so excited to officially, with officialness, tell you about the first spin-off show of Burner Podcast. It is called Burner Podcast Presents Alkaline. Just like this show, it'll be coming to you twice a month, but it'll be on the 26th, so it's like the second Thursday and then the fourth Thursday of the month. It's going to be DJ sets. We're going to have a music show because we've had some DJs on the show, and DJing, of course, is unquestionably such a massive, important part of our community and our culture. So twice a month, we're going to be bringing you brand new sets that were mixed exclusively for Alkaline by some of the most amazing DJs in our community. And it's going to be kind of going to the gambit of different styles that are prevalent around the community. This show is produced by Burner Podcast's very own music editor, Navjeet, and our new producer that has come on board, Amber Rose. The two of them are going to be basically putting together this amazing show twice a month, and they'll be tracking down different kinds of DJs, different styles. They do fully, passionately believe that it is important to bring you guys kind of the whole feeling of what the community is. And the tagline for the show, which I'm very proud to say I came up with, is the soundtrack to your burn. So Burner Podcast Presents Alkaline, the soundtrack to your burn. That's going to be debuting on May 26th. Go over to the Facebook page and give us a like. And it's over at facebook.com/alkaline podcast. And there's links to it over at burnerpodcast.com. So pretty excited about sharing that with you guys. And we do have another show in the works as well. It's already got a bunch of recordings, so we just got to get some of that uploaded. So lots of new content. If you like Burner media for your ears, then burnerpodcast.com is the place to be. So today's interview is about Russell, the Electric Giraffe. If you've been in and around the Burner community, as I assume you have, if you're listening to this show, then you have probably heard about the giraffe, or you have seen the giraffe. If you're a San Diego native, you know the giraffe extremely well. It's always kind of a lot of excitement revolves around the giraffe showing up, affectionately named Russell, and we're going to get into why and how he got that name. And of course, the person that we will be interviewing today is Lindsay, who is the maker, the creator of Russell the Giraffe. If you want some background info on Russell, you can go to electricgiraffe.com. That's the website that's got all the information about it. If for some reason you're not already familiar with it and you want to do some research, go to electricgiraffe.com and learn more about it. Or just listen to the show and we'll tell you the whole story. And then afterwards, you can go get the visuals. Also, a lot during this interview, we will be referencing the maker movement, the maker fair. I initially really wanted to have a maker episode of Burner Podcast, talking to some burners who are active in the maker movement in that particular community. And a couple of things happened, and for some reason that episode did not come to pass at this particular time. We will have one in the very near future. I do really want to dive deep first into that subject. So if for some reason some of the information on this interview sounds a little confusing, you can Google maker movement, maker, M-A-K-E-R, and learn more about what's going on. But if you're active in the community, you've probably heard a lot about it as is, and it should be all pretty familiar to you. It's familiar stuff. So Google Maker Movement if you want background info. Just FYI, we're not going to get into explaining what that is. We just kind of assume you already know. And then throughout this episode, you're going to hear us referencing Russell as if you already know who Russell is. And I kind of tried to move the conversation in a direction where we could kind of set it up so that you can get into things and then get into who Russell is. But Lindsay does talk about Russell a lot throughout the interview. So don't worry. We're going to get into the background of who Russell is. So if you're halfway through the episode, like if you're listening to the first third of the episode and you're kind of like, how come he keeps talking about this giraffe thing? And for some reason you are not familiar with the giraffe, you have not seen run into the giraffe on Playa over the past multiple years that Russell has been out there, it's okay. Stay tuned, stay patient. We are going to get into the background of what Russell is and what it looks like and all that kind of stuff. So don't worry, I got you. I have done this before. Lindsay's brain is working in overdrive at all times. And he is an absolutely phenomenal storyteller. I could have easily done like a 3-part episode of Burner Podcast just with Lindsay. But we wanted to kind of get through it. We wanted to tell you the story of Russell, and perhaps we'll get him back on for another roundtable in the future. So just a FYI though, with the amount of information that Lindsay has in his head and with the amazing talent for storytelling that he has, we bounce around a little bit. So just FYI, that's going to be happening, but don't worry about it. Stay tuned. It will all absolutely make sense if for some reason you are not already familiar with the background information. Also FYI, the first third of this interview is going to be a lot of great art car advice. Lindsay has a ton of knowledge to share with you. So if you have been interested in building an art car or a moving art piece of some sort, definitely you're going to enjoy the first third of it. If you're listening to the first third and you're saying, get to the giraffe, well, that's what's happening. We'll get to the giraffe at about 2/3 in. So FYI, that's some information to keep in mind as you listen to this episode. There are also a couple of weird cuts. Don't worry about those either. It just, at one point we had to cut it off because of something that was happening in the background at Lindsay's house. And another time it was like a pee break or something. My favorite part of this episode is definitely the epiphany that we had about techno music. So we're going to get into Lindsay's childhood a little bit, getting to know the kind of person that it takes to build an electric giraffe. We get into what's going on Playa with the giraffe and some, great, of course, Black Rock City stories. And the climax of the show, it ends in the final act. The third act of the show of this particular episode ends on the White House lawn with President Barack Obama. And I mean, it's funny, I know how the story ends just because, we know Lindsay. We live in San Diego. He is a regular of the community. And yet I was on the edge of my seat because, god damn, Lindsay's an amazing storyteller. Lindsay, I know if you're listening, you should just start your own podcast. Fuck this one. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. The unlikely story of how a animal-shaped art car ended up from Black Rock City all the way over to being shown to the leader of the free world. Today's episode is entitled let's try that again. Today's episode is entitled From Black Rock to White House. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was the fly with the balls and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no name.
Looks like we have a couple of bars. Thank you. Drinks.
Ta-da! We have drinks.
Salute.
Salute.
You're not hearing the clings, listeners, because I have a plastic cup.
Yeah.
Because I keeps it fucking classy. Oh yeah, you can curse, you can say whatever.
Keeps it real. All
Lindsay,
right.
thank you so much for having us. I'm here with Brock as well, sitting in the background.
Hi. Yeah. Thank you for coming over.
Yeah, we're here in Lindsay's amazing playhouse of all kinds of toys, and there's things everywhere, and there's maker projects, and you're pretty much always tinkering with something, it seems.
It can't. Yeah, I can't sit still. If I do, I actually start to panic. I start to freak out. I call it the Gary disease after Gary Stadler, the co-designer of the Giraffe when I was living with him at the time. Gary does a lot of amazing projects and things at Burning Man, and he's insisting I go with him again this year to help him with projects. Yeah. And even though I had written it off, I wasn't going to go. He's like, "Oh no, you're going." and so I can't sit still. A lot of my friends are kind of baffled by how I do so many things when there's only 8 hours per day that I can actually do them between my day job and sleeping.
Yeah,
which I don't do much of. Yeah,
I mean, your home is basically like a gallery of things. It looks like that you're either tinkering with or plan to tinker with.
It's kind of like the museum. And yes, I have so many projects around here. At one point, a friend of mine just threw his arms up in the air and just said, "I figured it out. Lindsay thinks he's never going to die." And no, I will someday.
Well, let's take it back to the beginning, to the furthest point away from your death. When did you? Have you always lived in San Diego?
Yeah, this is my native town. I was born here.
Always in Ramona?
No, I've lived all over the place. I grew up in Ocean Beach. That's where my heart is, and Point Loma, where my grandparents still live. Yeah. And then I just moved around the town slowly as I grew up, from Claremont to Rancho Santa Fe to El Cajon, to Claremont again, and a few other little places in between, Mission Hills, Hillcrest.
Why'd you guys move around so much?
It was, Mom was, between relationships with boyfriends, and so that, that makes you move around a bit. But it never actually left San Diego. Other people end up getting married in the military or something like that and find themselves in Hawaii or Europe or something. Nope, I just ended up staying right here. Yeah. So I've been pretty centralized, and it's my hometown, and I love it. We stole all the good weather.
Can you? Yes, it's true. Can you think back to the earliest memory that you have where you were taking something apart?
Oh, absolutely. Starting from age 2 to 4 and 5, my mom would take me to work with her because she couldn't afford daycare. She'd take me to work with her, and I would sit in the shop where she worked, and there was a company called Concrete Coring Company, and they had giant cutting machines and motors and things. And my mom didn't have a lot of money either, so my mom would bring home old lawnmower engines and electric motors and other things for me to constantly take apart. So as a child from the very early age, along with erector sets that my grandparents got me, I was making my own toys. That was the way it worked. And also plastic models. Plastic models were very, very cheap, and it would keep a kid busy and quiet for hours, which is what they wanted. So I would just disappear into my room and build models after model after model after model. And that's, a lot of people appreciate my work, like with the giraffe and stuff, from the aspect that I feel like I really need to finish it and dress it up and make it look nice. It's not just a bunch of baling wire and plywood and scraps all put together. It's actually a finished product. And that's comes from my need to finish all these models that I was building as a child. I would take things as far as to completion as I could.
So, because a lot of times, when you talk to a lot of people that are sort of like in our circles or people that are interested in some of the things that we do, the common aspect that you see with a lot of people is that we would be the types who would take our toys and take them apart. And it looks like you're saying that from a very early age, you were going the opposite direction. You didn't even start taking them apart. You were still building.
Well, yeah, but I took everything in the house apart. Oh God, I took the phone apart. I remember I took the phone apart. I remember specifically. I
didn't have the balls to do that.
I took it apart. It didn't work anymore. I quietly put it back together and just stuck it on the wall. And my mom comes home, the phone doesn't work, and I can still remember the phone technician coming out, because then it was, the Bell system, it was all under one blanket, and they would fix it for free. And the guy comes out and he opens up the phone, and I can still remember that sidelong look from him at me, like, And this happened over and over again. This happened with the phone, the TV set, the cable box. I screwed up the Cox cable box.
Wait, at what point did your mom catch on?
She knew.
She
knew the whole
okay.
time.
Okay.
She knew the whole time, yeah. And I would get either scolded or laughed at, depending upon the severity of the situation. With the phone, it wasn't a big deal that much simply because they came out and fixed it for free. You know, they had to. Same with the Cox box. But
Was she encouraging?
She was encouraging, yes. But most of all, pretty much hands off. You know, my mom was let me be very independent. She got me my own room. She insisted I had my own room from my very earliest of age. Yeah. And in my room, that was where my only child created my worlds of imagination. And my mother also read to me from a very, very early age. She read The Hobbit to me, and also other books of the day like Jonathan Livingston Seagull and a few others. And those early memories of forming imagination inside my head, along with my models, I wasn't building a little plastic toy B-24, Liberator. I was building a world that I existed inside, and that was where a huge amount of internal imagination was born. And that internal imagination for me now is my bulwark of information for me when I'm driving in my car doing my day job. I'm continuously building and imagining things. It's never stopped ever since age 4, 5, 6 when I started reading at a very early age. By the time I was 8 or 9, I was reading The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings all by myself. And I would sit in my room and just read and read and read. And it created an amazing world inside my head that allows me to visualize and form just about anything I imagine. I can actually create it right there and then sit down in the workshop and build it. I remember at one point I actually was so stuck on a problem that I fell asleep and I had a long dream. And in my dream, I actually created the device and the item that I needed to build. And I woke up and I remembered it, and then I went and built it. Yeah, it's only happened. That doesn't happen all the time. Yeah, but it was really, really moving for me. Yeah, things like that. Having an imagination.
I mean, I can only. I think a lot of us definitely that is a thing that connects a lot of the people in this community is that imagination. Like, because we all decided that we're going to grow up and we decide we're still going to go and pursue that same thing, try to find those things in our imagination and bring it out to the world. And some of us, like yourself, have the capability to actually do that.
Yeah, I'd had that with me all my life, but I didn't really know where I would. I can still remember in the 80s, I found myself listening to very different music from everybody else. Techno type music, and and atmospherics. And I was into Jean-Michel Jarre and Vangelis and all kind of people. Who's that? Yeah. And I'd play it for them, like, wow, that's really neat. And what it was is it was music without spoken word, and what it was doing was it was building that imagination for me. And I'll never forget when I finally started getting into a group of people that were kind of nerdy, techie, and the internet was starting to take off in the middle 90s. I heard about this thing called Burning Man that was happening. Yeah. At the time, it was still very grassroots. Yeah. It hadn't really made a presence known on the internet yet then, which was just starting to form up. AOL was forming up. Everybody was dialing in. BBSs were happening, and this little thing called the internet with email was slowly starting to emerge.
Can I? I'm sorry. Before you get to you just gave me the most wonderful epiphany. That observation is amazing because it does tend to be people with imagination that are attracted to the electronic music. Because it sets the stage for you to cultivate your imagination around it and apply emotions to it, rather than like pop music, which tells you exactly the story that you need to listen to. Like, sit down and shut up. Here's the story.
Yeah, sit down, shut up. Here's the story. Listen to this. Feel these emotions. Yeah. Ex-girlfriend.
That's amazing. I never thought about that.
Yeah, but then when you go into EDM or straight atmospherics. Yeah. That frees your mind up to sit down with a pencil and paper and just explode with ideas and things. And again, what really, really blew my mind was I got out to Burning Man my first year in 1998. I've been every year since, 16 years in a row. And I was absolutely, completely stunned at the creativity and the drive and the imagination and the diversity of art and things going on out there. And it was a whole new culture that I felt like I had gone to heaven. I felt like, wow, here this all is. And I'd taken many friends since. And some of my friends had a real hard time with society when they got back. Yeah. Oh, it can really grab you. And I let it grab me, but at the same time, I didn't let it take over my life. I have my day job. I have I have my responsibilities, and I keep those. But man, what a fun place to go to. It's my yearly trip to Disneyland.
Yeah. Well, that actually, I don't know if we actually talked this last year on Playa. I did see you. I think, did we say hi? I don't remember if we said hi. I remember I was running somewhere and we saw Russell and you were like, oh shit, there's Russell. And then we kept running. We were late for something.
The Burning Man time is Burning Man time.
I love
That's just
that.
how that goes.
65,000 fucking people on Playa and we run into you. Anyway, so, but that does bring me to the next question I was going to ask is that who were your friends before you discovered the community?
Oh, wow.
What sorts of people were they? How are you meeting them?
Mostly on the internet. Mostly through friends who were techies and nerds, and this little thing on the internet was slowly happening. BBSs were slowly happening. Message boards were happening, and fantasy and online gaming was just starting to happen. And of course, that's where some of those people are hanging out. And I started getting friends with one of them, and then all of a sudden, next thing I know, one of them is talking about Burning Man, and I'm like, "Wow, this sounds insane!"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'll get you a ticket. You got to go." And he got me a ticket, and I went. And it was only 4 days.
This was in '98.
'98, yeah. And it just completely blew my mind that this exists. That there's this place that you can go and show off amazing art and amazing things that you build and get away with it without looking weird. And
what was the biggest thing you'd built at that point in your life?
Oh, geez. It was the biggest thing I had built were motorcycles, motorcycles and helping friends with cars. I was always that guy that, wow, this is really messed up. Call Lindsay. And I would get over there and I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah. You messed this up and here's this thing and there's no voltage here. And I would debug a car for them
I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but again,
I was fixing everybody's cars all the time.
I feel like a lot of our friends probably had quite a bit of difficulty with a lot of our social circles, but having that particular skill probably still got you in with like a cooler crowd than a lot of us had access to back then.
Oh yeah, definitely through high school and school like that. I was always the outcast. I hated
fix
school.
Cars. I could still invite you over to fix my car.
Yeah, and that was the only reason why a lot of them tolerated me. Yeah. Otherwise, I was so smart. I really intimidated a lot of people. And I can still remember a pivotal moment. It happened in 6th grade. The most beautiful girl in school, this is, schools, especially elementary schools, everybody knew everybody in those things.
Yeah.
And one day, all the jocks were all standing around, the most beautiful girls, 10-speed bicycle. The chain had come off of the derailleur. And the way a chain works on a derailleur is very unique. And if the derailleur lets go of the chain, it flips around. It does a 180. Yeah. And when it flips around and does a 180, it's not obvious to you how the chain would go back on. And they were all fighting with each other over how it worked. And I walk up and I'm like, what's wrong? They're all, and the chain fell, the bike's broken. She needs to take it home. And I'm like, no, it's not. And they're all, what are you talking about? And I reached down and went flip, flip, clip. And the chain was right back on her going, you can ride your bicycle now. And she's like, oh, thank you very much. And they all glared at me like they were going to kill me. And I was absolutely out of the crowd from then on. That was 6th grade.
You just described a scene in a John Hughes movie.
Yes, I did. And it destroyed me as far as ever being friends with these guys. And I can still remember later on at a nightclub down in Mission Valley in the 80s, after I turned 21, one of the most hateful guys comes walking down the stairs from some upper deck in this nightclub, and we see each other, and I'm like, oh God, I don't even want to talk to this asshole. And he stops me and he goes, hey man, you remember me from high school? I'm like, yeah. And he's all, well, how you doing, man? I'm all, time was you wouldn't give the time of day to me if I paid you for it. Yeah. And he's like, oh, well, that was high school, man. It's cool. I'm like, oh, all right, see you later, And so people change, and that's nice. But overall, with me, it was amazing to find a place and a culture where I could do something and participate in something and have a lot of fun. So for the first several years of Burning Man, all I did was just get involved in everybody else's projects.
Yeah.
I really didn't have a project of my own. All I would do is I would bring a bunch of wood and I would build a really nice tent for people to hang out in. That was my thing. And I had my costumes and my other stuff. And I would go out and I'd be out on the playa and I would fix things. That was my fun. That was the most funnest thing of all.
Yeah.
I'd go out and people would be sitting there scratching their head over something. And I walk up
like the angel that would pop in
what's
all of a
wrong?
sudden.
And they're like, oh, this thing broke. I'm like, oh, we'll do this, 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 and this. Or, go over here to these guys and they got a welder and they can get you going again. I can't name the number of projects that I've fixed out there. I've fixed dozens of them.
I got to tell you, like, that's whenever people talk about having an art car out there, I'm immediately like, fuck. I feel like everyone who I've ever seen has an art car. All they're doing the entire burn is tinkering with it somewhere.
Yeah, and that was one of the fun things about me. I didn't get into art cars right away, but I did get into fixing other people's art cars. Yeah. And that taught me a whole lot about what the playa does to electronics.
Tell us some of those things. Give some examples.
Well, heat and dust is nasty right off the bat. Number two, a lot of people build something that kind of crawls around or scoots around or does stuff, but they don't understand that the playa itself is almost like rubber. It's a chalk, and it grips on things. And so if you have any differential movement to what it is you're doing, it's going to grip and you're going to snap your frame. Yeah. The other one is that they never really seem to calculate, especially if it's one that you can put more than 5 or 10 people on. They never seem to calculate exactly just how much people weigh. And the worst of all is if you start playing dance music. I have a saying: never play jump around on your on your art car, because everybody jump around, and guess what? You get 25 people jumping up and down. That can equate to like 20,000 pounds going up and down on your vehicle, and of course axles snap. And I've seen this right and left. And so that's my advice to everybody. Never play jump around on your art car if you've got more than like 10 people on board, because it's going to break.
That is one very important takeaway from the show. Never, ever play jump around.
Never play jump around on your art car. It will be destroyed.
What was one that just completely baffled you for a while until you figured it out?
What do you mean?
Like issues that happen on playa with mechanics and vehicles? Or was it always pretty easy to figure out what they are?
It wasn't too bad, I had guys with electric motors all fried and everything, and they're like, oh, our car's completely destroyed. And come over and take a look at it, like, all right, let's let it cool off. It's all smoked and burnt out. I took the whole thing back to my camp, tinkered around with it, went to Gary, hey, you got this part, you got that part. We stuck it all back together again, and next thing I know, this little art car is driving around like mad. And they see me and they're like, hey, thank you so much. So it's really, really rewarding to help some people out of a really nasty funk. Otherwise, you go out there and you see something with a broken axle, and it's like, oh, too bad. You lose.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. And you kind of, you're addressing this a second ago, but let's say this year I want to build an art car or mobile art piece. What is the 3 top pieces of advice that you have for me?
Oh, wow. Okay. This is good. That's a fantastic question.
I've done this before.
Okay, number one, height.
Okay.
It's one of the number one features. If you're going to build an art car and go to the trouble to build something, give it some height, but don't get dangerous about it. That's a really biggie right there. I've seen a lot of people injured. I've seen some people almost killed right in front of me.
What would be a marker for how high?
Well, like the giraffe was, his height was very specifically calculated at 6 feet. Okay. For the platform. The platform is about 6 feet off the ground. And what that does is that wherever you're at, wherever you set up, wherever you go, you're suddenly 6 feet above the crowd. You're head and shoulders above everybody else. Yeah. And it's a completely different experience when you're out at Burning Man. When 50,000 people are all at, eye level, unless there's something you can climb up on. If you've got an art car that just puts you up there just a little bit higher, not so high that if you fell off you would actually die, and not so high that you can't see what's in front of you. The nice thing about the giraffe is that because he's so open and we're just 6 feet up off the ground, we have a fantastic view around us, and we've never hurt a single person. Nobody's ever fallen off, and no one's ever been run over, and it's been fantastic from the get-go. And that was one of the things I learned. I rode around on art cars that were very tall, and it removes you too much from the crowd and the things that are going on below you. I've ridden around on art cars that were right down at sitting level on the ground. Really, really nice. But the problem is then, if there's any sort of crowd going on around you, you can't see anything because Burning Man's so flat. Yeah. So right away, number one is the height of the vehicle and the height of where you're going to have your guests. If you can get 10 to 12 people up in the air, about 6 feet off the ground, 4 to 6 feet off the ground, you're doing great, because now you have a completely different observational platform. You have a private space that you're away from the crowd that's all crowded around you, like when you're going to watch the men burn or show up at raves and things like that. And yet you can still interact with the crowd without shouting at them too much and of course destroying your voice, like I did several times on some really tall art cars. People were like, your art car is amazing, you know. And I was like 12 feet up in the air. And by the time I got done, I just couldn't even talk to anybody anymore. I was just like, oh. I had no voice. So you don't want to be so far removed, you know, by having a super tall art car, unless you're going for like a battleship. You know, you're going to go and build yourself some like a school bus thing. Okay, that puts you a little higher off the ground. It all depends upon your
because we've seen like the massive stuff, like the big ships, but they have like a team of engineers, I guess.
Yeah, ships. And here's the thing: the moment you do that, you enter a completely different classification of qualifications and safety issues. And if it's a really big one, Burning Man will not let you go driving it around without a ranger on board. You have to have rangers on board. If it has. You look up the rules, but somewhere about it's either tonnage or the number of people you can have on board, and or the size of the machine. You have to be careful about that. If you are a big machine, you have to have. You can't just go out. Yeah. You have to have rangers on board, and they have to schedule you. And so suddenly you're beholden to somebody else. Be very careful about being beholden. You want to have your own gig and just be able to pack up at 3:00 in the morning and go hit the playa and not be worried about breaking any rules. So be very, very careful about that.
Fucking free spirit.
So number one is that. Number one is height. Number two is suspension and ability to carry the people safely on board without any breakdowns and without it breaking. And also, the moment you have any sort of height, any dips or gouges in the playa, which are definitely happening by the time the event is actually going, those roads get so rutted and so nasty that you're bobbing back and forth and sideways and everything else like that. The Giraffe has no suspension at all, and so it beats the living crap out of him. And I'm going to see what I can do to address that issue. But overall, the Giraffe doesn't go to Burning Man anymore. He went in 2005, 6, and 7. And I realized, hey, let's take this thing professional. So I'm not taking him in Burning Man anymore. And then this last time, we'd done the White House. We had done the East Coast. We were like, hey, let's go back to Burning Man. So I took him back, and it beat the living crap out of him. But, there might be some ways I can do that. But get away with it. But suspension, making sure you have good suspension, working with a vehicle. If you can work with something that already has suspension, go for it. I've seen people use... small trucks or small cars, and then just slightly expand on them a little bit and then build a framework around that. So, cars are great. Don't use, what are those things? Golf carts. Don't use golf carts. They're so passé. Don't use golf carts. Make something a little bit bigger, get yourself a small car that's thrashed
for a while
and work with that.
Yeah. For a while, it feels like, I feel like Burning Man's trying to kind of put a stop to this, but there were people that were just full on just bringing the golf carts and slapping some basic shit on it just to have a car to drive around. And calling it an art car, quote unquote.
Yeah. Burning Man actually put the stomp down about that, like going on 10 years ago. Yeah, they all of a sudden it got really rampant, and they were like, look, you can't just bring a golf cart and throw shit on it and call it an art car. Sorry, we want to see some ground up work here. And so Gary and we started building our own stuff from scratch. And the first art car I was in control of out there with Gary was called the Quadrupus, which is actually out of my driveway right now. Sounds sexy. And the Quadrupus was a lot of fun. He and I designed it on a napkin while having sushi at a sushi restaurant. That whole thing was designed in one evening on napkins. And we're like, all right, we're taking this home. We're welding this together. And we did it. And we had this thing called the Quadrupus. And it was quite famous. And Gary's kind of gotten after me because it's been sitting here, rusting away. And he's like, well, I thought you were going to do something with the quadrupus. I'm like, all right, well, we'll see what we can do.
Describe the quadrupus real quick. What does it look like?
It was based on the idea of the octopus ride that you would see at the amusement parks with the 8 arms going around and around with the big dome head in the center. And so what we got was an actual radome from a ship. And we punched a bunch of holes in it and stuck LEDs in it. And we actually made it spin. And then we drilled a hole through the center of it and put a riding platform way up on top. Well, right there, that's the scary part. The riding platform is like a full 15 feet in the air. And climbing up to it to get up there and get on board is dangerous in itself. And then once you're up there, you're so far removed from the crowd that everybody wants to talk to you because everybody wants to ask you about your machine. And the next thing you know, you don't have any voice left because you're yelling your brains out. And that was one that Gary had said. He goes, that the quadrupus taught me a lesson. He goes, we're too far removed from the crowd. Yeah. And so for a whole year,
advice you gave, this just clarified where that came from.
Exactly. Yeah, the quadrupus was one of those vehicles that said, it's just too high. So what we're going to do
origin story.
So he gave me the quadrupus, and what we'd like to do is take it all apart. I'd love to get a crew of people together, Brock or anybody else. And hey, here's a community car. Let's mess with this thing, and we can take it out to Burning Man, and then I can give it away to different people. And that's what we did the last couple of years of the quadrupus out at the playa. Was we gave it around to different people and let them all have fun with it. There was a few accidents, but the quadrupus is so slow that it couldn't really do any damage, even if it hit anything. It literally was a walking pace machine, and that is another one right there. Important. Definitely
number 3. This is a sub advice of number 2.
It's a sub advice of number 2.
We haven't gotten to 3 yet.
Absolutely. Never, ever, ever make it that your art vehicle can go fast.
Okay.
Absolutely don't.
Yeah.
It's a good. You're going to be in that statistic where somebody got run over or somebody got killed. You're going to be in that realm. Yeah. You don't want to be in that realm.
Can you
stay away from that?
Suspension is so important. I don't understand why suspension is so important on the play. It's so flat.
No, the play isn't flat. Not after a few days. Now, if you're out on the art space can be pretty flat. But the inner roads, if you want to go cruising the inner roads, they get so rutted out. They get, by the time the event is over, just if you have no suspension on your vehicle at all, your vehicle is just all over the place, and it just beats the crap out of it. It really, really does.
I feel like as he was
suspension's a good thing, or good cushy tires, really good cushy tires. I would like to actually, if I'm going to take the Giraffe back to Burning Man, the thin trailer tires that I have that provide almost no suspension at all, I'd like to put some more balloony tires on him, like from an ATC, that he would get some of that suspension from the balloony tires.
As you're describing that, I felt like, for me at least,
it gets really rutted out there.
I was imagining, like, pretty much if you've ridden a bicycle out there that doesn't have good suspension, you know how necessary.
Yeah, because I've seen you, Brock, I've seen you, Brock, with your machines, and those have those. What are those? The Gators.
I have a Polaris, but but the Kawasaki Gators and all those things, they have amazing suspension. You're not going to feel any of that crap out there. Yeah, you're going to just drive right over it and be like, hey, this is great. Presumably you've had trouble with the Giraffe.
Oh God, yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, it beats the crap out of him. Bolts falling off, things breaking and snapping, and all that.
Yeah, a couple of years ago from the rain, I remember bicycling. Yeah, my ass was in pain for the next 2 weeks after.
Oh yeah, just bouncing and banging around.
That's horrible.
That's why you want to bring a mountain bike out there that you don't care about.
Yeah,
definitely bring a mountain bike, and do your thing. Oh my God, speaking of mountain bike, I got to mail somebody a mountain bike. Thank you. So
number 3, third advice.
So
got suspension. We got height.
It's got height, suspension.
2.5.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
2.5.
Okay. So height and height, suspension. Mechanical reliability. Let's talk about the drivetrain. Okay.
That's a big number 3.
This is a big number. Well, actually, that's a good.
It's kind of a whole ecosystem.
It's a good number 2. Yeah. Suspension and height and drivetrain.
Okay.
Reliability of your drivetrain. The Giraffe is electro-hydraulic. Stupidly reliable.
Okay.
Can't break it down at all. Will work in any temperature because I use one electric motor that runs at one speed, and then I vary the fluid back and forth through hydrostatic drives. He's like a tractor. Yeah. The Giraffe simply doesn't break down. And the heat, it doesn't care how hot it gets. Right away, I've seen dozens of electric vehicle projects. They build them all here, and they drive it around everywhere. And they're like, hey, this is great. And then you hit the sand of the playa out there, that bogs that motor down, and then you're driving it around with 6 or 7 more people on it than you had in your driveway back at home, and you're going these long distances, and you're burning out electric motors right and left.
Yeah.
I see it every year. Vehicles parked because they burned out their electric motor. That's one of the biggies. So you want to make sure that your drivetrain is really good and solid and robust and can handle heat, can handle, or if it can't handle the heat, then you don't drive it during the day. Use the cool evenings to help the cooling of the electric motors and all the other gear that you're doing.
Is there a certain kind of engine or drivetrain that you recommend?
Well, again, electrohydraulic is fantastic. Hydrostatic drives off of lawnmowers that use a solid running typically use a solid running gas engine. Yeah. But you can turn that over to an electric motor, like I did with the Giraffe. The Giraffe got his start in what could be called a janitorial role. Yeah. The Giraffe motor is from a floor sweeper from UCSD campus, and I got it at UCSD Surplus. Yeah. It's a 3 horsepower motor. That 3 horsepower motor will move 25 people at a walking pace across the playa absolutely reliably with no breakdowns whatsoever, because I use from the motor, it goes straight into hydraulics. Yeah. And hydraulics are just amazingly reliable. Nice. They just don't break down. And again, they can take horrible heat. They can take it all day long. And the electric motor just runs at 1 speed, and I just vary the oil pressures with the hydrostatic drive, and poof, off we go.
Beautiful.
So he's like a tractor in that respect. Now, what happens from there with other vehicles and other projects, if you got a car, if you're going to use a car with a frame and an engine, you want to make sure that, your radiator and everything else is all up to snuff. Otherwise, you're going to be, overheating and blowing it up and doing whatever. But X number of drivetrains out there that I've seen, yes, they can't handle it.
Amazing.
The other thing, of course, again, suspension. I've seen lots of breakdowns because of broken shafts, everything else. Bring spare tires, for God's sakes.
This is advice 3.5.
Yeah, but really, your drivetrain is your other one. Now, I still would like to say these advices I'm giving you right here are all mechanically linked. Mm-hmm. So I would like to say, for most part, that's like 1 and 2. Here comes number 3. Unless you have a question for number 3, or you're just asking me 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't understand half what you're saying. I'm hoping the listeners do.
Number 3, your daytime look and your nighttime look. The look of what it is you build.
This is number 4. We're going to go with the 4 because this is now we're getting into aesthetics.
Okay,
I'm good with that. I'm not saying don't give me a number.
Height, to deal with all the sights and sounds that you have.
Height, suspension.
Yeah, height and suspension, and of course all the safety that goes along with it. Make sure this thing's not going to fall over and kill people and or kill other people.
Drivetrain.
On that level, by the way, with the Giraffe. The Giraffe is an extremely fatally dangerous machine if it should fall over. If any part of that Giraffe broke down and that thing fell over, people are going to die.
Okay.
And this scares me.
Stay the fuck away from the Giraffe.
Well, no. This scares me on a daily level. But when we went to design the Giraffe, when Gary and I went to design the Giraffe, we went to a guy who also builds car frames. Yeah. And we took the design to him, and we said, here's what we want to do. We want to do this and this. And he looked over all the dimensions and said, okay, this is all good, and you're probably going to be pretty reliable at these metal thicknesses. But you know what? If you want to be safe, go with take all of your metal thicknesses that you just did and up them by 1. So in other words, we were going to build the Giraffe out of 095 and 075 thick steel. Yeah. We went with 095 and 120 thick steel.
Yeah.
This added a clean 500 pounds of weight to the Giraffe, but it also increased the safety and reliability of the Giraffe tenfold. It made it much, much safer.
Where are your keys?
Okay, so making sure that you're safe with what you're doing. Again, with the Giraffe, we aren't structuralist engineers, but what we were building was a box girder kind of made out of triangles steel, which is extremely robust and extremely reliable. But again, we wanted to be safe, and so the Giraffe probably weighs a good 500 or 600 pounds more than he needs to, because we built him with really thick steel. And when we got done with it, we had the guy look at again what we were doing. He goes, oh yeah, you're at like 50,000 pound shear weights right here, on different things. So the Giraffe is stupidly strong.
Yeah.
We haven't cracked any welds. And as far as I'm concerned at this moment, he is safe. He's 10 years old. He is safe. We have a perfect operational record, and I intend to keep it that way. So that's another thing that I see people taking huge, reckless risks with out there on the playa is overloading. You got to be super careful about that.
Yeah.
And making sure that what it is you're going to build, if you're going to get 10 to 12 people up on board, you make sure that it is not going to break. And if it did break, what would happen? Let's just say, point at a piece of the machine and go, what if this broke right here? What would happen? So you got to be very, very careful about that because, like I said, and then, again, 10 or 12 people on board, don't play jump around. That's the big one. So now,
duly noted.
So then the next thing...
The night and day look is what you started to talk about.
And let's talk about aesthetics for a moment. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is you're going to build, whatever it is you're going to put that much effort into, think about the future. Think about other events besides Burning Man that you might like to bring it to.
Yeah.
Think about what its functionality is and what kind of mood, what kind of idea are you trying to put forward. You want to be as obviously appealing as possible, but at the same time you want to be as original as possible as well. Some of the more original ones I've seen. One of the things that they do at Burning Man is they make things extra big.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Take things and just make them extra big, and that can be very, very clever. Especially, finding out, the one little thing that you do, you make it extra big.
The giant Volkswagen.
Like the giant Volkswagen. Oh, the giant Volkswagen's amazing. I've been through that whole machine. That thing is so professionally built, it's not even funny. It's built. Really cool. It's built out of an old fire engine that used to live at an airport runway. That's why it has such a huge interior with the whole bed and everything in there. That was a giant water tank. What that was that's a frame from a fire engine. And then he went through that whole thing and made it as perfectly to scale to a Volkswagen as it could be, right down to the twin exhaust pipes coming out the back from the V8 engine inside. Every single, and it has a Volkswagen steering column, an actual real Volkswagen steering column that goes all the way down through the machine, down to the giant steering down below to make it go. Everything about that Volkswagen is fantastic. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. The attention to detail, making it right and doing it right. And then on the opposite end, I've seen these mini Winnebagos, and it was so hilarious. It was a golf cart, but the guy had built the full box aluminum and everything all around it to be exactly like the 1970s Winnebagos with the orange and yellow stripe down the side with the W on there for the Winnebago. And yet the thing was only like the size of this coffee table right here. And it was driving around. It was hysterical because it was teensy. So taking things and making them smaller is one way to be artistic. Taking things and making them bigger is another way to be artistic. One of the things I've seen that seems to have the largest appeal and was a huge influence with the giraffe and with the giraffe's creation was the fact that art cars that look like animals or emulate animals right off the bat got a huge amount of attention. Right away, people really, really liked them a lot.
Why is that?
I think it's just a romantic. I think it's a romantic affair of the mind to see something that doesn't really exist in the normal real world. That you can get that close to.
But it's a frame of reference. It's like an anthropomorphizing.
Yes, it's anthropomorphizing is what it is. Yes, and so when I built the giraffe.
But we like animals because we're not hitting the uncanny valley.
Yeah. Now the uncanny valley. That's a whole other discussion we can have about robotics later if you like. But when I built the giraffe ended up being very angular and very stylized like a giraffe, but it was only so much. You had to actually you had to go the other half. But in doing so, I found out something amazing. And that is, if you make something not quite 100% real, and this is about the uncanny valley, and you make it just stylized enough, cartoonishly or however you do it, to where then people come and they bring the other half with them in their minds. Suddenly, you've built this one thing that has an amazing amount of appeal across the board from the young and the old alike. And they see this thing and they bring the other half of the life to it. The giraffe in his first year at Burning Man.
It's techno. It brings people together that can't even share language, but they can add their imagination to it.
But they can add their imagination to it. And and I took this thing to Burning Man, and the reaction from everybody was just completely overwhelming. I couldn't believe the reaction. People were talking to him, and we're not talking about just being on drugs. They just really liked how he looked. And the people and my friends who were helping me design it at the time, when I built the head and got it all done, they're like, God, Lindsay, this is amazing, and I feel like it's looking at me already. I feel like it's alive. And Gary went walking by, and Gary's my biggest critic, and he went walking by and he saw the head on the giraffe for the first time, and he said, "Stroke of genius, Lindsay. You took a bunch of steel and made it cute." And then he walked away. And I was so complimented. I was like, wow, Gary, thank you so much. Because he's my biggest critic. He busts my balls on right and left. If he actually takes a moment and stops and says something is good, it's because it really pushed him, to the other side.
Well, let's get into that part of the story. So 98 was your first burn. And then from there, you're going every year. You're running around like a magic fairy pixie fixing everybody else's shit. At what point did you decide that you're going to build something for Burning Man?
Okay, that was 2002. I was cruising around on the playa on my bicycle, full head to toe, dressed like a zebra. And everybody knew me as the playa zebra, and that was the beautiful part about being a black and white item in the middle of all that color and all that stuff.
This explains your Facebook avatar.
People would pick me out of the crowds from 1,000 feet away.
Come fix our shit.
Well, no, but they would know me from the next year. And so I'd be like just cruising along. I'd hear Lindsay, and I'd see some people and I'd barely recognize them, but they remember me from last year. And so with the moment you're just this black and white striped entity, it's like you stand out from the crowd so much and you can be picked out so much. Yeah. Well, anyway, so I get there. I'm cruising around, having fun, and everybody's stopping me along the way going, "Have you seen the guy with the ride-around zebra?" I'm like, "No." Like, "You need to find this guy. It's amazing. He's got a zebra that he's riding around on. It's all made of plywood and stuff, and it drives around. It's like a go-kart, but it's a zebra. You got to find this guy." I'm like, "Oh, wow." So I started looking for him. And little by little, once in a while, I finally tracked him down, through different things. And I go to his camp, and there's the zebra. And I walk in his camp, and he busts out of his trailer, running right at me, going, "Everybody's been telling me to find you." and I'm like, "Everybody's been telling me to find you." And he goes, "Get your ass up on this zebra right now and go." Yeah. And I jumped on the zebra, and I went for a drive. It knocked it knocked it out of the park for me. And I drove into my camp, and I still have the photos of me on that zebra. And I was having so much fucking fun. And that's when Gary came over and said, "Lindsay, it's time for you to build an art car." Yeah. That was it. And so that was 2002. So 2003 and 2004, I went riding around. I didn't just go into it right away. I was like, "Oh, this is because I don't know, call me an asshole. But I'm not going to go and just take a golf cart and stick some stuff on it." Okay. And I'm not dissing people. Yeah. Well, I'm not dissing people who do, I'm just saying that I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to do something like that, if I'm going to take that effort, I'm going to go to the extra effort to make it something that's really noteworthy and really crazy. And I can't just take a bunch of plywood and bolt it together. I gotta over-engineer it and go crazy with it.
Let me just take this opportunity real quick for listeners to understand. We have both seen people that have really taken golf carts and done a bunch of amazing shit to it.
Oh, they've done some beautiful jobs.
Who we're making fun of as the people that just slapped a sticker on it and said art car. No, but we've seen definitely people have done some cool shit.
There have been some fantastic.
We're not trying to say all art cars or all golf carts.
Let me tell you and I'll take a brief moment to give severe credit to the art to the golf cart deal. The best golf cart one ever, hands down, you can't beat this, was the guy who took his golf cart and built a big bed over the golf cart. So it's like a bed, and it has sheets hanging down, and the bed is about 3 or 4 feet off the ground. The golf cart's completely hidden. You don't see it. Then it has poles going up with a beautiful tapestry and filigree and tassels and things going around for a parasol over the top. And then he put 2 long poles out the front and 2 long poles out the back and built 4 papier-mâché Egyptian Anubis soldiers. And the Egyptian Anubis soldiers are kicking their legs, but they're not touching the ground. And he rides around on this thing, and it's as if you're in Egypt.
That's incredible, yeah.
And you have Anubis soldiers, carrying you around on the playa. I was, all right, that's it.
That's fucking cool.
You're done. Fantastic. Wow.
Done.
Best golf cart, art cart ever.
Get back to Russell, though.
So with Russell...
you've gone a couple of years, you're doing your research, you're figuring out kind of what's going on.
And this is when I went riding around on various art cars. And I found some art cars were really tall, but right away that was kind of fun, but you're a little too tall, a little too high, a little too removed from everybody. Then you're way down low. Like somebody had brought a lizard car and 3 or 4 people could sit on this lizard and it was really neat, but the lizard was right down on the ground. And right away I was like, okay. But everybody really loved the lizard because it was this huge lizard on the ground. And people were sitting down and petting it and talking to it and crawling all over it and everything. And it was a beautiful machine. It was fantastic. And so right away, I started noticing that art cars that look like animals were getting a lot of attention. And they seemed to really cause as much emotion as you could ask for. And I've been running around on the playa as a zebra all this time. Well, somebody had already done the zebra, and I was like, well, the zebra's been done. If I do a zebra now, it's just going to be like, oh, great, what'd you do? You made a bigger zebra? Yeah. There's a zebra already running around the playa. So the zebra's been done. Fine, not going to do the zebra. So I decided to switch to the next African animals that I love. And I thought immediately about like kudu and gazelle and a few others, but those are all pretty small animals. And then I thought about the giraffe.
Not a rhino?
A rhino, yes. Cool. The very first idea was the playa cows. Here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to build a bull that had big horns, and he was about the size of a real bull, and he'd have motors on him and stuff like that. And people could climb up on these things and ride them. We would build about 10 of these things, and we would have a bull with horns. The bull would be networked to the other 9 or 10 cows, and wherever the bull went, the cows would follow, just like those golf cart caddies that would follow you around. Yeah, we were going to get golf cart caddy software, put it into all of the cows. The bull would go around, and so this herd would go roaming around on the playa all by itself.
You didn't do this?
I didn't do this. Does it sound amazing? Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
And then here's what we wanted to do. And then we wanted to have 2 or 3 of them that would be completely fully radio controlled remotely. Yeah. So we would be way over here somewhere, and we'd have cameras in the eyes, and we would go into people's camps, and we'd be like, "Hi, I'm the cow. Blah blah blah. What are you doing? And then we would talk to the people and say, "Hey, and we would finally, through telling them, hey, if you give me something, I can give you something. Yeah. I've got something I can give you." And so the cow would open the mouth up and say, go ahead and give me like a beer or give me some jewelry or something. And you put it in the cow's mouth, and the cow would turn around and lift its tail up and go, "Okay, now reach in," and you'd stick your hand up the cow's ass, and there'd be this box full of toys and things and stuff, and you could pull things out at the same time. Lord. Yeah. Or maybe you just reach in and there's a cooler in there and it's just full of beer. So you can pull a beer out of the cow's ass.
I love it.
But we would go roaming around with these cows. But I wanted to do this one and then what I thought of is we could make it totally automatic where it just doesn't really know where it's going to go, but it's GPS linked.
Yeah.
And it would have a giant roaming area, so it would never leave the roaming area. Yeah. And then this herd of cows would just suddenly just roam into people's camps.
Yeah.
And they would be all motorized, and they would all be random, and people could get on them and then take control of them and go driving them around a little bit. And then when the moment you let go of them again, they would all find each other and converge to a herd. And then at night or during the day, they would sleep and charge themselves with solar energy. Yeah. And then at night, that's when they woke up. So that was my initial idea, was the playa cow herd. And I talked to Gary about it, and we're like, yeah, it's pretty cool, but we need a lot of help, a lot of people, a lot of stuff, to make that work. And then I thought, well, let me get back to my original art car idea.
Burner Podcast.
All right, ladies and gents, a quick break to tell you about this particular project that I ran across, and it might be something that you might want to contribute to. And I'm just going to go ahead and read this first paragraph of it real quick, okay? Soup Dumplings Unlimited seeks stories of transformation and discovery inspired by Burning Man for a literary anthology. Writers must have attended at least one burn or an affiliate burn recognized by Borg. All stories must be set in part or in full at Burning Man. We welcome fiction and nonfiction, 4,000 word count, max. Only previously unpublished in print and online stories will be considered. So it's a book. It's a book. They're taking submissions. If you have stories that you've written, whether they're real or they're about your own experiences, they're accepting stories and submissions right now through June 30th. So you have about another month and a half to go in order to get your stories in. If you're interested in learning more about this project, go to soupdumplings.org. Soupdumplings.org is like a redirect URL, so I tried it a couple times and it gave me issues once, so just FYI. The other link here is Soup Dumplings Unlimited. Okay, soupdumplingsunlimited.submittable.com. Oof, a lot of trippy syllables and stuff. So anyway, soupdumplings.org or soupdumplingsunlimited.submittable.com. Go over there and submit your stories. It's a pretty cool little project. I think I might even submit. We'll see. All right, let's get back to Lindsay and Russell the Electric Giraffe.
Welcome home.
So from there it was, well, what are the other plains animals of Africa that I really love? And I thought about the giraffe for a couple seconds. It was like, yeah, it's kind of big and spindly and thin, and you know, it doesn't even really have a back on it that you could ride it on. You'd have to like put a couple saddles on it to make it go. So I sketched out, but I thought, hey, this could be cool. So I sketched out my very first giraffe, and it was going to be on a rolling frame, like a cart frame. And then, because the first thing I thought of was, can I make it walk? And the answer was absolutely not. No way, can't make it walk.
Like making all the legs.
That's insane. That's insane. And so let's put it on a rolling golf cart type thing, and we would camouflage the cart down low with fiberglass and grass all over it. And then the giraffe would stand out from that on poles, and it would be a medium-sized giraffe. It wouldn't be a yearling, and it wouldn't be a full-grown at 22 feet. It would be like maybe 15 feet, 14 feet at the head, and maybe 6 feet at the back. And you could climb up, and there'd be two saddles. It'd carry two people, and we would go cruising around on this thing, and it would look like a very real giraffe. So from 2002 to late 2004. I thought, what could we do, to build, this cool, giraffe? And the idea originally, by the way, was that the giraffe was going to be very real looking. Mm-hmm. It was going to have a skin. It was going to be shaped just like a real giraffe. And I was going to put I had started to think about actually making it more out of plexiglass and making plexiglass spots all over it. And the spots would actually be computer controlled and make beautiful colors. So I could see this giraffe running around in the dark, doing its thing. And this is part of what I'm talking about, was the aesthetic look of what it is you're doing. Think very much about what your daytime look is, whether or not you care, and think very much about what your nighttime look is, whether or not you care. Yeah. Some art looks fantastic during the day and doesn't really do much at night. Some art looks fantastic at night and doesn't do anything during the day at all. Mm-hmm. For the giraffe, I'd say he's probably 60-70% night oriented. He does look pretty darn good during the day. Yeah. But at night is when he really looks good. Yeah. And yes, the drugs help. Moreover, the look of the thing. And I went to Gary, and I was scared out of my mind because Gary was like, what do have you figured it out yet? Because he was the one who said, you need to build something. And I went to him and I said, I think I have it. And this was after a year and a half of riding around on different art cars and compiling ideas and height and things and look. And I said, I want to build an animal. I want to. It's going to be a giraffe because we'll get that height you talked about, but not too high. I can probably carry a few people on with me. And think about a device looking like a giraffe in the dark, cruising across the playa with its legs moving, and you see and hear music. And either it's playing music or it's listening to the music around it. And it's doing a light show to it. It's like a 60s color organ in the shape of a giraffe that you can ride around on. And Gary looked up in the air for a couple seconds and closed his eyes for a couple seconds and looked at me and says, you need to do that. And that was it. The giraffe was born. We went for it. And then just about the time I was actually starting to weld metal together, I ran across this little plastic toy from Tamiya. that can actually walk. It's this little plastic toy, and you put together as this walking giraffe.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about it at all looking like a real giraffe, other than just the fact that it's got a tall neck.
Is it?
That's it right there.
The thing that's sitting on the table right now?
This is the original.
I mean, so listeners, sorry, you can't see it.
This is it. There it is.
Yeah, there it is. I mean, you guys can't see it, but it's neon. Yeah, it looks like the legs kind of move on their own, and it's got like a space for a AA battery that pops in right here. But it does look a lot like
that
Russell.
$15 toy cost me $50,000.
You're gonna have to elaborate on that statement.
And got me one-on-one with the president of the United States.
Where did you find this?
Online. I was cruising around looking online for ideas about giraffes.
Yeah.
And I ran across this little plastic toy. And what you're holding in your hand, by the way, is the original plastic toy that was purchased to build the giraffe from. Here, I'll go ahead and hold it for you.
I'm going to take this photo. I'm going to put this on our blog, so we'll see what you're looking at here. Oh, hold on. It's getting lost with the background. Here, hold it in front of something dark, like your shirt. Your shirt is good. Right there. That's good. That's good.
How's that?
Yeah, that's good. Perfect. Just like that. Got it. Okay. You guys can see what it is that we're describing on the blog.
Yeah. So this little plastic toy actually does walk.
Yeah.
And I thought, the mechanism would be perfect. You know, we can make all four legs move with this. Yeah. And in a nice cheap fashion, it uses linkages. And it wasn't to make the giraffe walk. It was to make it look like it was walking in the frame. And I had it on the kitchen table, and it was cruising around. So they would
have to be like balanced off. The wheels on each leg would have to be balanced off perfectly, so as to never lose any.
Yeah, but in this case, there was a framework that was going to hold it up, and the legs were just moving to make it look like it's walking. That was the idea. We weren't going to actually make the giraffe walk. It was still going to have the rolling frame and do its thing. And Gary comes home, and he's like, "What's that?" And I go, "This little plastic toy. Check it out. It's actually walking, and I can use this mechanism to make it look like the giraffe's legs are moving in a walking fashion."
Yeah.
And Gary pointed to the giraffe, and he said, "It's already walking right there on the kitchen table. Why don't we just make that bigger?"
Yeah.
And I went, "You are out of your mind. Look at the way it's jerking along. Look at all that. You take this little plastic toy, and make it that tall and that big out of iron, it's going to tear itself apart. And probably make everybody sick trying to ride it because it's going to jerk so much."
What the fuck, Gary?
And and we got in a huge fight. I mean, I had the giraffe designed. The giraffe was done.
Yeah.
The design of the giraffe was done. I had it all down and done. And I had a direction to go. And Gary was like, "No, you don't understand. You need to make this walk." And I'm like, "Gary, that is insane." Gary's like, nobody's done that. That's crazy, and they haven't done it for a reason because it's scary and it's dangerous. I don't want to go there. And Gary said, damn him. He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "And that's exactly why, Lindsay. Nobody's done it. You go and you build yourself a little go-kart frame and have something running around on four wheels again. Guess what? It's just like everybody else's. But if it's actually standing on four legs and walking, no one's done that. And you are going to stand way out." And I was like, "God damn it." Wow. And in the end, he convinced me, and I trashed my whole 2 years worth of ideas on the giraffe, and we started from scratch all over again. And then the next epiphany happened, which was, okay, if we're going to go through this giant fuckwith, if we're going to go through the trouble to build this thing, then let's build it as big as we possibly can. If we're going to do it, let's go big. If we're going to go big, let's throw caution to the wind, and let's go, and not necessarily caution to the wind, but let's take the idea. Yeah, no brakes. Let's take the idea and see what we can really do with it. So the first thing we did is these little legs right here, where the width of the legs right there. We realized that if we're going to carry this thing somewhere, we got to be able to make it fit on a trailer. So we went out with a tape measure and we measured the width of a trailer that the maximum could be. We plugged that into the width of these little legs on this little plastic model, came up with a 24-to-1 ratio, and said, okay, that's it. This little model right here is going to be 24 times as large to fit exactly on the trailer, to be as wide as it possibly can. And everything that happens after that is all dimensionally governed by this plastic toy.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened.
Wow.
And next thing we knew, I had a 17-foot tall, near life-size to actual weight of a real giraffe, 2,000-pound walking machine.
How long did the build take?
Exactly a year.
Really?
Yeah, exactly.
When did you start building right after?
Well, actually, not exactly a year. It was coming up on December when I found the plastic toy.
Yeah.
And right about early December, that's when the whole thing went completely in the can and went a different direction. And so starting January 1st, I was at Pohuna House in Escondido at Smoke Blower's house.
Pauhuna,
whatever. But a famous house, a famous gathering place. I was there New Year's Eve. I brought my plans with me. I had brought the little plastic toy, and I announced it to everybody there. I'm going to build this thing. And I can still remember Smoke Blower's reaction. He was enthusiastic. But ever since afterwards, he always has been so proud to come up and say, I was there. I remember you telling everybody about this. And I still remember most of the people talking behind your back going, yeah, that's no. Like, yeah, that's a cool idea, but nah, he's not going to do that. That's too big. That's too crazy. And then he goes, and then you fucking did it. Yeah. And he goes, and every single person who was there at that party remembers that moment. They all talk about it all the time. Like, yeah, I was there when Lindsay pitched that idea. Holy shit.
How many people
fucking
went
and did it?
How many people worked on it in that year?
Me and...
Was Gary there?
Gary was there.
Talked a lot of shit. I hope he was there.
Talked a lot of shit. Gary was just in the background going, yeah, that works. No, that doesn't work. Yeah, that works. No, that doesn't work. Try this, try that, whatever. But I welded that whole thing together myself. And I had some friends coming over and helping me all the way.
What was the very first thing you made on it?
The very first thing that had to be made were the legs.
Okay.
Yeah, the legs were the very first thing to make because the legs had to be the same. So we actually built them in a computer. It was exactly like building a wooden model airplane when I was a kid. You had an X-Acto knife and some wood, and you would put it on the plans. Yeah. And you'd cut these little pieces of balsa wood out and glue them together. And next thing you know, you have a little box girder body for a model airplane. Yeah. The giraffe is no different. It's the same thing. We printed out from the sketch. We put it into a CAD. Then we printed it out life size. I gave all the dimensions to a CAD engineer. He just simply drew my drawings, in CAD, and then to the scale that we wanted, we went to 1-to-1 scale. Went to the plotter at my work, and we printed out these long sheets of paper. And I labeled all of the sections A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Cut them out with scissors, laid them on the steel, marked it with a Sharpie, and then cut it. And I was able to build exactly what I needed from scratch from a blueprint that I made. So it's absolutely no different. No difference at all.
Let me ask something. What was the biggest sort of like difficulty or hurdle that you had to overcome as you were working on the giraffe that you did not expect would be an issue?
Okay, we actually have video of this. It's a little hard to extract, but I know that we've got these video files in some places. We copied the plastic toy 1-to-1. Okay. And in doing so, again, like I pointed out to the toy when it was originally walking, the step that it takes and the way it works and the jerkiness with which it might actually plant its feet could be very difficult to accept as a vehicle to ride on and or dangerous and or simply just impossible to actually make happen. This was perhaps the scariest part of the entire journey on doing all this. Was I was welding and cutting and cutting and welding for a solid 6 months before we would see a result where the giraffe was actually going to take a step. Yeah. And I didn't know what to expect. And so originally I told Gary I wanted to build the whole thing out of wood. I wanted to build it out of wood to see what it would do. And Gary was like, yeah, great. And you're going to spend 3 to 6 months building it out of wood. And then you're going to find out either you're terrified and you don't want to do it, or you're going to find out, yeah, it'll work. I'll get to it next year because you're not going to have enough time.
He's saying, don't give yourself a plan B.
Don't give yourself a plan B. Go with plan A. Yeah. He goes, we have to treat this. And I remembered this, because we both hit on this idea at the same time. And I got very excited about this when we said, we're going to treat this like a space program. There was no plan for getting to the moon. There was no plan for going there. All it was you build to get to the next logical step. Yeah. And that was how we went to the moon. If we had sat there and do the way we do things now, we'd have been engineering our brains out for 10 to 20 years before we would have put one thing into space. No, they simply shot it into space, saw what broke, fixed it, and went to the next logical step. And that's when Gary said, here's what's going to happen. It's going to screw up. You're going to have problems. But what we need to do is we need to assure ourselves and believe in ourselves that we are smart enough and clever enough to fix these problems along the way as they show up. And that's the leap of faith that you're going to take. because this is a big project and you're going to make this work. And it, you know, when it all looks like it's all wrong, you know, sure, you know, go in despair and, you know, take a few days off from it. But then we're going to get back to it again and we're going to figure this out. So here's what happened. We got through all this work. We built the 4 legs, built the frame, put the whole thing together, stood it up on all 4 legs. And then the day came that we put power to it and we decided, here it is, it's going to actually walk. Oh my God. It was one of the most terrifying things I had ever seen in my life. First of all, it was so nose heavy that I felt it was going to fall over on its nose because it didn't have any tail weight at all. Remember, all it was the transmission with the big giant drive shafts up front. So it was very front heavy. We didn't have the batteries in it. We didn't have anything. We had a set of batteries on the ground with jumper cables going to the motor, and we were just going to take the batteries and jumper cable them straight to the motors. And this fucking Frankenstein was going to get up and walk. Yeah. And all of us were there, huge anticipation, huge, we were tense as hell. And in the end, I had to get 2 friends, Tristan and Larry, to climb up on the back of the giraffe legs. And I told them, I go, now, if you get scared, just jump off. But I need human ballast on the back. I need some human weight here if we're going to make this work. And the giraffe turned on, and the mechanism worked exactly like we had anticipated. And the giraffe went to take its first step. And that's when the horror happened. We realized that the crankshaft to scale the model was too big. And the giraffe was trying to pick one leg up almost 16 inches off the ground. Its front leg was coming 16 inches off the ground, this high. And then it was going to fall forward. Yeah. And it did. And it fell forward and slammed on the ground. Oof. Larry and Tristan jumped off. And I went, okay, that's really scary and really fucked up, but it did work and it didn't fall over. Guys, could you climb on one more time? Let's take one more step. Yeah. And we took one more step forward again, and they both freaked out and jumped off the thing as it slammed back down on the ground again. Yeah. And then I said, okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 steps backwards. And the steps backwards, because it's actually all that weight is on the nose. As it tried to walk backwards, all that weight stayed on the nose, and it gingerly picked its rear legs up off the ground and gingerly took 2 steps backwards. Much more peaceful than taking steps forwards. Yeah. And that's when we realized that we had something. It was like, okay, this is all fucked up. The geometry is all fucked up because we're actually trying to make something walk. Holy shit. But I think we have a plan. So at that point, I got on the video and I talked to the video and I said, hey, you know, we just, as you can see, we just made it take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. It's all wrong. The geometry is all wrong. We can see that it's all wrong, but, I'm hoping that this is not the end. I'm going to take 2 steps back myself and look at this thing and see what I can do to fix it. And we're going to go from there. At the moment, this proved the idea that it's going to work, that you know that we would, but we are facing potential failure, and I was devastated, and at the same time I was also.
This was how long in?
Oh, it was 2005. The giraffe had already been approved to go to Burning Man. We had submitted the art car idea. Yeah. We were given, full, yes, definitely bring that.
How long have you been building when this happened?
Since January 1st. So this was January, February, March, April, May, June. Oof. This was June.
Yeah, that's right under the wire.
July, August. That's all we had, July and August.
Oh my God.
And so we were in June. We had just made it walk in like middle to late June. It had walked.
This is like the end of the second act in a movie when everything falls apart.
This is Act 2. Yeah. So here comes Act 3. And, we're in the middle of Act 2. So at that point, I backed off. We picked the giraffe back up in the air on the claw arm that could hold it in midair. And I sat down.
By the way? Where were you building it?
At Gary's house.
Where is it?
In Rancho Santa Fe.
Okay.
And we were building it at his house. Okay. And we picked the giraffe up in the air with the forklift, and then I put it in motion, and I sat and I watched it, and I watched it, and I watched it, and I watched it. I watched him walking in midair. He just sitting there like my hand, walking in midair, doing this over and over again. And I went, okay. And I went back to the drawing board and I did some geometric calculations based on the way he was walking, inches for feet and all that fun stuff. and came up with a plan. And what we did was I added 2 inches of length to the front legs to bolster that part of the framework, because that's the part that's going up and down. Yeah. As that part goes up and down, if that has a little bit more height, then the tendency to nosedive isn't going to be so great. So just like a ship, I added more height to the front of the bow is what I did. So I extended the legs 2 inches longer. Then the connecting rods that go crisscross back and forth, I cut 2 of the connecting rods and took out an inch or 2 of those connecting rods. And what that did is that splayed his front legs a little bit more forward than back. And then, most of all, the biggest thing of all, was I took the master crankshaft itself that was swinging at a full 8-inch crank, an 8-inch circle, and cut the crankshaft apart and took 2 inches out, so that the crankshaft was now a 4-inch radius instead of an 8-inch radius. Okay. Which completely changed the whole geometry of the machine. And I put it all together. No one was there, because we were just under the gun. No one was there. I welded it all together. I got out the motor. I turned it on. The giraffe took 2 steps forward, which were amazing. And then 2 steps backwards, which were amazing. And I was like, I think it's working, but it still looks scary as hell. And Gary came walking by and he goes, "Oh, is it ready? You have it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And Gary climbs up on the machine, full height, sits on the frame and says, "Okay, make it go." I'm like, "Gary," he goes, "Make it go. I want to see what it's going to do." And the giraffe took 2 steps forwards and 2 steps back with Gary on board. And Gary goes, "That's it. You've nailed it. It's working. It's perfect. It's perfect. Keep going. See you later. I got to work on my other shit." And he just ran off. And I'm like, and I was like, holy fuck. I'm too scared to even write it. Yeah. And then Gary goes, and then he came back and he goes, "Have you written it yet?" I'm like, "No, I don't have any help." And he goes, "Oh, climb up on board." And so I climbed up on board, and Gary took the the big, it was Frankenstein at the time, took the big clips, the jumper cables, and just jumpered them right onto the batteries. And the giraffe took off walking 2 steps, and it scared the living daylights out of me. And then it took 2 steps backwards, and Gary's like, "How's that?" I'm like, "I think we have it. I think this is it." Wow. And nothing's changed since. Version 2, perfect.
Amazing.
Nailed it.
Amazing.
Nailed it. And the giraffe walks
right
exactly
under the wire too.
Yeah, and the giraffe walks exactly like the real one walks, like the little plastic toy walks. It's geometrically perfect in every way.
Was the voice being developed at the same time?
Oh hell no.
You started
Here's
that
the thing.
This?
The whole thing with the giraffe was, we're going to build this thing. We're gonna go out on the playa. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna pick up girls. Yeah. And we're gonna we're gonna have a pretty bitchin' looking art car that hopefully people will like. Yeah. Nothing could have prepared me for the reception that this thing had.
So did it have the voice the first year?
Oh hell no! Okay. Oh no, it didn't have anything.
So the first year you were it didn't have anything. It was walking.
It was just walking. The head was hollow. We stuck the little plastic toy in the head as a piece of decoration. I put 2 lava lamps that were electric lava lamps with sparks running around inside them for the horns. And I took plastic ears and put it on it. The jaw was locked, even though the jaw could move. The jaw was locked. Yeah. And I put 2 plastic ears on them that could blow around in the wind on springs. And then the only real mechanism to it was the fact that when the neck went down and the neck went back up, the head stayed perfectly level because we had a cable, and the cable went through a series of pulleys. So as the head went up, the head leveled, and as the head went down, the head leveled. Yeah. But here's the part that really blew my mind. When we got it to the playa and started walking it around, I could not believe people's reception of this thing. The head was hollow. There was nothing there. And people were petting him and talking to him. Girls were lifting their shirts up and rubbing their chests on him. And as a sexual magnet, it was over the top. Yeah. I had no idea how much people like giraffes.
That's amazing.
And how psychologically linked they are with giraffe. The giraffe themselves have an amazing following. It's bigger than horses. It's much bigger than horses.
What year was that? I'm sorry, you said?
It was 2005.
2005, okay.
And I'll never forget, I pulled into a major square with the giraffe. I was walking along, and now I at this point I was becoming a veteran of Burning Man. 2008, 9, 10, or it went 98, 99, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. That was my 7th year at Burning Man. I was well on my way towards being an experienced burner. Helping people with projects and doing things. And I knew the culture. I knew that thing about Burning Man, but nothing could have prepared me when I went walking the giraffe into this huge square, and there's, people are in costumes and there's stuff going on and there's music happening, and it shut the fucking place down.
Yeah.
I walked in, everybody stopped what they were doing, and guess what? They broke out in applause.
Yeah.
You don't get applause at Burning Man. There's too much going on.
That's amazing.
And the giraffe got this huge round of applause at Burning Man.
And it didn't play music at that time? It didn't talk?
It didn't play music. Yeah. We had some music on board. Yeah. I had some music on board. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go into
I don't know. Yeah.
So then huge reception. What do you decide is going to be the next edition for the coming year?
Well, that was the thing. So we took it to Burning Man. We had some fun with it. We went running around with it. He couldn't steer. The fun part about the giraffe was that it couldn't steer. So we had ropes on it, and we would wrangle it. And it would take forever. It had like a quarter-mile steering or an eighth-mile steering radius.
Yeah.
So to steer it anywhere was a real bitch, and it required a whole lot of gathering people around to participate and make it do what it needed to do. It would walk forward and it would walk backwards. And here was the best part I discovered more than anything else. It had a lever. If you just pushed the lever, the giraffe would start walking.
Yeah.
Well, I found out that I was having a lot more fun putting it in motion on the ground and talking to people than actually riding it.
Yeah.
I'd put the girls and everybody else up on ride it, and I'd stay on the ground.
Because I've never actually seen you ride it.
Yeah. I actually had more fun being on the ground and just letting it go and letting it do its thing than being on board.
It's more like your pet than an art car.
It's more like my pet than an art car, exactly. And that was the next thing. It began to take on the personality of something that really was a breathing animal. Yeah. And that was what I suddenly realized, hey, right around 2008, I realized...
Was it named Russell at that time?
Yeah, no, it wasn't named Russell. It was named You Bastard. Yeah, it was called You Bastard.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it was called You Bastard, You Piece of Shit, God damn you, you're making my life miserable. What the fuck am I doing? It had all kinds of names, but You Bastard was definitely one of them. And but here's the part that really, really floored me. I realized all of a sudden, in this huge crowd of people with no one on board, I'd put the giraffe in motion and then I'd go over and start talking to everybody. Well, meanwhile, within 1 to 2 minutes, the entire area has completely exchanged people. Yeah. No one knows who owns it. And people are coming up to this thing and it's walking along. And they're like, okay, it's got to have video cameras on it somewhere. And they would actually place themselves in front of it, thinking it's going to stop. And I would casually walk out, grab by the shoulder and go, come with me. It's going to run you over and kill you. And how do you know? I go, because I built that. And they're like, you built that? Mm-hmm. Yes, I built that. And they're like, holy shit. So the best part of this whole thing was on 2005, we pointed it at the open desert, put it in motion, and went and sat at a bar right there on the Esplanade and watched the giraffe go a full like almost a mile out there all by itself. It got that big on the horizon. Yeah. No one was with it. I just set him in motion. I just said go, and he went all the way out there. And the best part was watching people ride up on their bicycles, and they would stop, and then they would stand up, and then they would look left and look right and look all over. No one was on board. And this fucking thing was just way out there in the desert. And then a couple of friends of mine and I jumped on our bicycles and we biked way out to it. We got it turned around and pointed it at Burning Man, and then went back in again and sat at a bar. And it took 45 minutes for it to come back into town. Yeah. But while we're sitting there doing it, nobody fucking knows anymore who owns it. Oh my God. And so we're all sitting at this bar and people are talking blah, blah, blah. And pretty soon people were like, does anybody know what the fuck that is? And I turn around and look, and here's this giraffe, and it's coming right at us. I'm like, I don't know. And I go back to talking, like, it's getting really close. Yeah. There's no one on board, and like they're like, and all of a sudden panic would ensue, and the thing would come right into the camp, and I'm just fuck if I know. And then I reached up and flipped the switch off. I'm like, yeah, this is mine. This is my thing. And they're like, holy shit, you built that. And so we had so much fun with it, just nobody on board. Yeah, that was another huge, huge learning lesson. No one on board, and it was doing its own thing. So
we're getting close to sort of like trying to round it up towards the end of our show here. So, obviously a lot of people that are listening to this episode are familiar enough with the giraffe. Like, I mean, even if you haven't actually been out to the playa, there's been so much imagery of it around.
Yeah.
What in 2006 and 2007, what was different about the Giraffe versus 2005?
Well, 2006 and 7, we added steering to it for 2006. It still walked, and that was its only mode of propulsion.
Okay.
And then in 2007, I added the hydraulic drive so that it could walk and roll.
Yeah.
And that really changed.
So you could transport it faster between locations.
Yeah, because immediately, we walked it back and forth in the driver and like, hey, it walks. This is awesome. Yeah. And then we got it out to Burning Man and it's like, oh my god, it walks. This sucks because it only is going like a quarter of a mile an hour. Yeah. So it was like, fuck, it's going to take us forever to get anywhere. Yeah. So definitely, I puzzled over what to do with it really in 2006. In 2007, I nailed it, and we put hydraulic drive on it. We were driving around, and it was great. And then in 2008, Burning Man was approaching, and the Giraffe was all rusty and beat up and everything else like that. And we were getting gigs. People wanted to see it. The Mythbusters, by that time, had actually ridden it already.
Oh, wow.
And Maker Faire was suddenly this huge adventures fair that was happening in San Mateo, and I was and I'd been on Good Morning America, and I had famous people already meeting this thing and riding on this
we're blazing forward here for a second. Hold on. So how did you end up on, when did Good Morning America happen?
That happened as a result of being at Maker Faire. In 2006, Good Morning America showed up. Mark Pauline with Survival Research Laboratories saw it, who's one of my idols of all time. Yeah. He thought it was pretty cool. And next thing I know, Sherry and the gang with Maker Faire are running up to me going, you need to get outside right now with the Giraffe. I'm like, why? Good Morning America is there. They want to interview you. And we rolled up the giant doors of the thing, and this Giraffe comes walking out. And next thing I know, there's the whole TV crew. And everybody freaks out. They're like, holy crap, we saw you on Good Morning America. Yeah. What the hell? Oh, and here's the best part. At that moment of that interview, the Giraffe was starting to talk. We had put the little sensors on the nose, and I had met my friend Russell. And Russell was this English kid who I couldn't afford to pay, and he'd only come out once and to see the thing. And we had built this little computer program for the thing, and the Giraffe could actually now start to talk to you. Yeah. And we used Russell's voice. So
you started putting in the talking mechanism in 2006.
Yes, yeah.
So by
2007 he was talking.
By 2007 he was talking.
Yeah, he was talking. Yeah, 2006 it was.
Was
very
that something you also developed, or did anybody else come on to help you with that?
That was Russell, my programmer.
Okay.
Who the Giraffe is now named after.
So then, that's the part that we didn't
and here's how this happened: the Giraffe comes walking out of the hangar. Good Morning America is sitting there waiting for me. They come running up to me like, hey, blah, 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 and they're all, what's the name of your giraffe? And here I'm ready to say, you bastard. That was the name of the Giraffe. And at that moment, I realized I can't call him you bastard anymore. I'm on national television.
It was on live television that you named him Russell.
And I named him Russell right there. I was like, his name's Russell. And they're all, oh, this is Russell the Giraffe. And I petted him, he's like, hello, blah, blah, I'm the robot giraffe. And I went straight, I got the clip, it was online. I took the online clip, went straight to Skype, got a hold of Russell and said, here's a video clip. And all I get back are these two giant eyeballs. And I go, guess what? You're now famous. You're a household name. And he's like, oh my God.
My gosh.
And that's the thing about English people. They're very easily embarrassed. I embarrassed the hell out of him.
Let me jump back here for real
awesome.
quick. Yeah. So Russell, your programmer, he's British. We got that part. How did you connect with him real quick?
Met him on the internet. He liked zebras also, and we were just talking. We were just in a chat group talking about stuff. And
this is something he did.
He's like, "You like zebras?" I'm like, "Yeah, I like zebras a lot." And he goes, "Oh yeah, it's my moniker is Mr. Zebra." That's how I saw him. His name on the internet is Mr. Zebra.
What forum was this on?
Oh God, all hell if I can remember. It may have been just something
somewhere where you people hang out.
It was either Skype or AOL or something like that. Yeah, but we were building stuff.
Okay.
It was a builder's thing.
So that's when the voice gets added in. And then how did you get invited to the Maker Faire? Just for clarification.
Maker Faire contacted me in some form or another after I had done something called Robo Expo.
Okay.
And I believe Dale Doherty was at Robo Expo, and somehow... It's still unclear to me exactly, but I got wind of this thing called Maker Faire that was going to happen up at the San Mateo Fairgrounds. It was their first day. It was first year, 2006. They said, you got to bring the Giraffe. And I did. I brought the Giraffe, and the Mythbusters showed up, climbed right up on board and rode it. And a relationship and a whole new direction for the Giraffe was born.
Wow. What was Mythbusters, why were they interested in it? What were they trying to disprove?
Because it was just had nothing to do with their show. Mm-hmm. They're techie people who had heard about this thing called the Makers Faire, which was this cool thing. So they decided to show up and check it out as a group.
Look at all the timing, the way that got put together.
Yeah.
You go to Burning Man in 2005 with this thing, and in 2006 it explodes. You're at Maker Faire. You get attention from Mythbusters.
And Good Morning America.
Good Morning America finds out about it there at Maker Faire. Like, everything exploded in this 1 year, and that's when you connected with Russell in the UK, and he does the programming for the sound.
Yeah,
my God, what a year 2006 was for you.
And one more. There was actually one more. We were there at the fair.
Yeah.
And my friend Phil, who did the artwork for these T-shirts, comes running up to me, white as a sheet, totally excited, bouncing up and down like a little schoolgirl. And he's like, Lindsay, he's here. I'm like, who's here? And I'll be damned if I can remember the gentleman's name at the moment.
Not Barack Obama.
No. That came later.
Yeah.
But this little tiny little demure little scientific gentleman from New Zealand who did a show on cable called The Secret Life of Machines.
Okay.
It was a fantastic show. It ran alongside of Beyond 2000 and a few other shows of their day that were highlighting all this new technology that was exploding all over the place in the late 90s. And in the middle to late 90s, when the internet was blooming and everything was going crazy. There was this little tiny show out of New Zealand called The Secret Life of Machines. And what they did is they took vacuum cleaners apart and VCRs and just all kinds of crazy things. And they showed you how they worked.
Yeah.
And it was all done in like a farmhouse with rusty doors and dirt floors. And they showed you all this neat stuff. And it was a very tongue-in-cheek show, but it was so well presented and so well loved. All my friends and everybody, we loved the show. Yeah. And the host of the show was actually at Maker Faire walking around.
Amazing.
And I found him, and he is this tiny little demure gentleman with his little suitcase and his little 3-piece tweed jacket. And I said, sir, and he's like, oh, hello, I remember your show. It was so wonderful. And he goes, oh, well, thank you very much. And I go, sir, I built a robot giraffe. Yeah. Would you please come over, to my, and see this thing, and if there's any way I could give you a ride on it and give you a better view of the Makers Faire here, I would love it. Yeah. And he goes, oh, that sounds entertaining. Yeah. And he comes over and he sees the whole machine and he goes, yeah, I think I would quite like to get up there and ride this with you. And we got on board the machine. And I gave him a ride, and we went about 200 or 300 feet through the Maker Faire with it. And we stopped, and I go, so what do you think? And he looks at me and he goes, well, it wobbles a bit, but it gets around. And it was a beautiful quote. It's a beautiful quote.
It wobbles a bit, but it gets around.
It wobbles a bit, but it gets around. And I gave this man a ride who was, definitely, an amazing inspiration to me. Yeah. And next thing I know, all of a sudden I'm finding out that I'm an inspiration to hundreds of kids and people. And next thing I know, I'm becoming the mascot of the Maker Faire. The Maker Faire is, sponsoring me to be there. I'm becoming the mascot. And then I come home from Maker Faire, 2014 in May. And I get home and there's an email waiting for me. I mean, I'm unpacking the giraffe. I go in, it's Monday, just after the Maker Faire. And there's an email from whitehouse.gov. And I'm like, the hell is this? And it's like, hi, the White House is going to host a Maker Faire. We would very much like you to bring your giraffe. Please contact us. And I went to Sherry of Maker Faire and I said, is this real? And she goes, yes, this is real. You need to contact them right now.
What year was this, you said?
This is 2014. Wow. Yeah, just a couple years ago.
Wow.
And I'm like, am I going to meet the president? And they're like, we think you are. So I called up whitehouse.gov and I said, what is this all about? Well, we're going to do this thing, blah, blah, blah. And I go, is the president going to be there? Well, we really can't talk about that. Yeah. We're just doing this whole thing, in the meantime, we're just going.
Because there might be an international incident.
They're not talking about it because you're going to meet the damn president. Yeah. Holy crap. And next thing I know, it's good afternoon, Mr. President.
Well, okay. So how long were you out in D.C.?
A week.
A week. Okay, so you get out there. What do you have to do to get set up on the White House lawn?
Well, this was
background checks.
This is a whole odyssey in itself.
Yeah.
So basically, they contacted me with 30 days to go before the event. 30 days. I had never shipped the giraffe ever. Okay. It had never traveled anywhere more than the distance from here to
were they paying for that?
That was the next thing. No, they were not.
Interesting.
So the first thing I told them was I declined. I declined it. I said, I'm sorry, I can't afford this. You know, it would be really nice if there'd be some way, but I can't afford this. You know, I don't suppose you would be willing to pay it. They're like, oh, we can't do that. You know, we're just giving you the invite. Yeah. Please bring the giraffe. We would really, really like it if you could show up with the giraffe. And I declined.
Yeah.
And there was a whole week gone right there. A whole week went by. And then the phone...
Are you like kicking yourself in the head during that week?
I was really bummed.
Yeah.
But there was nothing I could do.
Yeah.
And I called up Sherry at Maker Faire and the gang and said, I have to decline. I can't afford this. And Sherry said, well, you know. And then all freaking hell broke loose. The email exploded. The phone exploded. I was being called every 2 hours by the White House going, you don't understand. We're really counting on the giraffe being there. No is not acceptable.
Do not say no.
Do not say no. Because I think somebody had already promised the man that there was going to be a giraffe on the White House lawn.
Oh my God.
And so I'm like, oh my God. And so I called Sherry and Luis again at Maker Faire and said, what can be done? And they said, well, let's see, let's see what we can do. And Luis,
I mean, you're a burner. We do fundraising. Why is that so hard to do?
Well, but with 30 days to go, that's the problem. I could have started a Kickstarter thing and done it in 6 months.
Yeah.
Because it looked like
how much is it to ship?
It looks like we were going to need about a solid $20,000.
$20,000 to ship Russell from San Diego to
just about between airfare and all the other things and the logistics and getting the container built and all the other things done for this. Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So right away, Louise put the body armor on and got straight into it with them and with the shipping agents. And fortunately, my good friend Alan Murphy of Murphy Surplus here in El Cajon, he is familiar with shipping things and doing stuff like this. So I went to him for help and he said, okay, let me make some contacts and do some things. So the first thing was we had to put the giraffe in a shipping container, put it on a truck, and send it to Washington. We couldn't send it to the White House. We needed a destination.
Yeah.
So Luis went back to the White House. Phone calls were made, and instantly the Smithsonian said, we'll do it. And the Smithsonian put their hands up and said, you can use the Smithsonian's facilities to ship the giraffe to it and build it. The next thing I found out was Disney had had some art grants and stuff here and there for certain things like this. And Luis and the gang with Maker Faire appealed to Disney for that. Disney said, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah. And they forked the money for the shipping container and the shipping, which was a clean $8,000 or $10,000. And then Maker Faire went and ponied up the rest. And so suddenly what looked like it was impossible looked kind of probable.
This was with 2 weeks to go.
This was with 2 weeks to go.
Okay.
Now, we had to come up with a shipping container. We had to come up with a shipping agent. We had to come up with the destination was still a little fuzzy at that time. But
you're at your day job, by the way.
And I'm at my day job.
So
Alan Murphy made this happen. Luis and Alan Murphy made this happen. Yeah. To them, I owe everything. And because I had my day job, I'm freaking out. I'm trying to figure out how to make all this work. We're juggling things right and left. And basically the way it came down to was this. For every single thing we did, for every agreement we focused on, with everything that we put together with this, if one thing broke for one day, if there was a 24-hour break in anything that we were doing, the whole thing was off. It wasn't going to work. And what really blew my mind was just the whole provenance of how this happened, that it all just fell into place. The love that came down out of the sky to make a giraffe show up on the White House lawn was unbelievable. So Alan calls the shipping company that builds the containers. Now, all shipping containers are built in 20-foot and 40-foot lengths. And for the most part, 40-foot lengths. Every shipping container you ever see that's a 15-footer or a 10-footer is custom. They're actually cut down from real shipping containers and made smaller. There's no such thing as anybody making them that small. A lot of people think they're just made in all these different sizes. Only two, 20 and 40, and that's it. Everything else is all custom. So he calls up the shipping company, and he's like, I need a shipping container
I need a 10-foot, a high one. They make them short and they make them high. They make them 6 foot and 8 foot high.
Yeah.
He goes, I need a tall one. And I need the 10-footer version, and they're like, okay, yeah, we'll put you on the books. We'll get that shipped to you. We should have that ready in about 2 or 3 weeks. I need you guys to get out the cutting torches and cut it today, and I need you to be painting it and shipping it tomorrow or the next day. And they're like, well, what's the rush? We're trying to get a giraffe to the White House lawn. Okay, I'm listening. Okay, I'm listening, they said. And he told them the story, and they're like, all right, we're dropping everything we're doing.
Yeah.
We're going to go build it right now. It's going to be down in San Diego in 3 days.
Yeah.
Then we call the shipping company, and the shipping company's like, oh, yeah, we've got cargo going back and forth and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, put your items together, put it in the container, and bring it over to us, or we'll come and get it, and, it'll be there in about 3 or 4 weeks. We'll put you on the schedule. It has to show up on this date, a week from now.
Oh, God.
And they're all, what's the rush? Well, the box has a giraffe inside, and we're taking it to the White House. Okay, we're listening. Yeah, we're listening. This is weird. Tell us more. And so we told them the whole story, sent them to the website. They're like, fuck yes, we're down with it. And they made a miracle happen. The truck driver showed up. This was June 18th. The truck driver showed up 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Showed up on the 15th.
Wow. Took
the giraffe from San Diego to the Smithsonian in 3 days. 3 days. Got it there on the 17th.
Yeah.
I jumped on a plane. No delays in flights. Yeah. Did a red eye from San Diego out to Washington. Showed up at the loading dock. The truck driver, the flatbed tow truck driver was there. He was waiting for me. We all get there. And I pull into the loading dock area, and here's my box sitting there on the loading dock with 15 dock workers standing around it with their eyes this big around going, there's a giraffe in here? And I'm like, yeah, you want to see it? They're like, yeah. And we take the giraffe out and put the neck on it. We motor it around in the area, and I gave everybody T-shirts, and they were just giggling like schoolgirls. We put the giraffe on the back of the flatbed. We motor it off to this weird destination. We had to go to the Secret Service first.
Yeah.
And you're not given an address. You're given a street name and drive to the end of the street. They'll be waiting for you.
Is this on the day of the fair?
Yeah, this is the day of the event.
Okay.
We get there. We suddenly see all these guys in body armor and dogs and everything waving us in, and we go into this courtyard.
What month was this, by the way?
Huh?
What month? What time of the year was
June.
it?
This is June 18th.
So it's in the middle of summer.
It's horrible.
Fucking hot in D.C.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. I don't know how people live there.
Oh, no. D.C.'s weather is horrendous.
It snows in the winter.
Yeah.
And it's like 1,000% humidity.
Yeah.
At 99 degrees in the summer.
It was god-awful.
Miserable.
God-awful.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
So we show up. These guys are all standing around in body armor and stuff and dogs and everything. The guy comes walking out. Where's your paperwork? I'm like, I don't have any paperwork. I have a giraffe. And he's like, all right, come in. He takes all our fingerprints and all our stuff.
Yeah. Who's us?
Russell and I, and
the giraffe
and the tow truck driver.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I look outside through the window, and the Secret Service is climbing all over the giraffe, and there's dogs running around the vehicle and everything else like that. And so,
hold on, are they guys in suits, or are they wearing like whatever?
Oh, these guys are all they're like cops in riot gear.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like cops in riot gear.
They're climbing around the giraffe, looking for bombs.
They're in full body armor and everything. Yeah. And so the phone rings, and meanwhile my phone is blowing up because now we're actually late. Yeah. The event starts officially at 10. It's 9:30.
Okay.
And the guy goes. And the phone rings again because the guy's holding us up. He's basically like running all our stuff. We're standing around an office, nothing's happening. The promoter is calling me over and over and over again, going, "Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm in the yard. I'm in the dockyard. Where you wanted me to be." But they're running they're doing something. They're running our tags. They're running our identification. But we're stalled. And at that moment, the phone rang again. He picks up the phone. You can tell there's a lot of tense conversation going on. He's like, "All right, everybody outside." We go outside, and to my astonishment, one of Obama's armored escorts shows up. It's the SUV with the machine gun inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could tell it's riding low and heavy to the ground. And this thing comes barreling around the corner. It's the most badass-looking car I've ever seen in my life. And this guy hops out.
He's in full armor, gear. He just looks like a robot. He jumps out. He comes running over to the guy. A few exchanges and finger pointing happens in the air, and the yard worker is like, fine, whatever, the yard worker is like, whatever, I'm done with this.
Yeah. And
he walks away, and the guy with the body armor comes walking over, and he's in these amazing sunglasses and his shaven head, and he just looks like he's ready to just kill anything that gets in his way. And he goes, all right, I'm here to take you to the White House. And he looks past me, he's like, what's that? And I go, this is the robot giraffe. We're going to take it to the White House, and we hope the president's going to meet him. And he goes, that's bitchin'. Let's go. And that was exactly what he said. Oh, and then as he runs towards the armored SUV, he looks over his shoulder at me and he goes, if the light changes red, run it.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. And he turns on all the lights and he takes us straight to the White House, and we go right through the gates. They close the gates behind us.
They don't even play with the possibility of you getting stuck in traffic and being messed with.
That was it. Yeah. And we just bored right through traffic.
And that must be like something they're really used to in DC.
Oh yeah, they are. Oh yeah, here and there diplomatic vehicles just suddenly have all their lights flashing and they just drive right through intersections.
That's got to get really annoying.
It can be. I'm sure it is for the DC residents. It is annoying because any diplomatic vehicle, I saw it happen a few times. Yeah. Vehicles go by and there's all these flashing red lights and they just don't stop. They just keep right on going. Because actually stopping is hazardous.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
When there's dignitaries on board, stopping
that's when you get surrounded.
Is when you can get surrounded and attacked. Yeah. Exactly. So they actually don't stop.
Yeah.
So anyway, we pull into the White House, and next thing we know, a guy comes up and he hands us our badges, and he's like, hi, I'm here to escort you onto the White House lawn. And we get on the lawn, and at that point we said goodbye to the tow truck driver for a little while. He had to leave. And we put all our gear on the Giraffe and we motored in. And next thing I know, here I am down on the south lawn looking up at the White House with the fountains and all the things. Wow. And we come around the corner and there's Obama's Obama had put a children's play set on the White House lawn for his kids. And sure enough, there it was. And we motor right up to the front. And next thing I know, after a whole lot of, exchanges with all the different people, suddenly the lawn clears and here's the president walking towards me. And I'm like, oh my God.
How many different makers are there?
I got 100.
There's 100. Yeah. Okay.
But here I am shaking the hand of the president, and I got a Burning Man art car on the White House lawn.
That's insane.
I got a Burning Man art car.
Fucking insane.
On the White House lawn.
Yeah.
That's the part that really blows my mind.
What was he like? What was he doing?
He was amazing. He's exactly as tall as I am. He's 6'2".
Okay.
And he walked up, and he goes, so, I understand, you have this robot giraffe, and we talked about it, and it's all there on the internet. You can go to just type in Obama giraffe and go to the pictures and go to YouTube, and it's all there.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. It was fun. The whole time I was telling myself, don't pass out, don't pass out, don't pass out. And at the same time, don't say fuck, don't say fuck, don't say fuck.
I've heard he's a cursor himself.
Oh, yeah. But he's
not, but there's cameras and stuff.
Yeah, there was a huge contingent. Yeah. And this was also something that was memorable about that event was in the debriefing, it was you shake his hand, when he shakes his hand, if he wants to touch or pick up something, you let him do it. Yeah. Don't hand him anything. Don't reach in your pockets. No selfies, no phone shots, no goofing around. Yeah. You're under a lot of scrutiny. Keep it cool. Yeah. Don't do anything stupid because everybody says, those same rules. By the way, there's 2 or 3 snipers in the area with crosshairs on you the whole time. There is. There's absolutely 2 or 3 snipers hiding in places. And that's why, we put the giraffe up. They're like, oh, no, it's got to move over here. Yeah. And then somebody else would come out. No, it's got to move over there. And somebody else would come out. No, it's got to move over there. And I realized it afterwards. The reason why I had kept moving the giraffe around is because they needed a clear shot from another direction, another point.
Wow.
Yeah, they needed it.
Could you see them?
No, I never did. They're that good. They are that good. And but the Secret Service was really cool. What?
Can you feel it? Is there a sixth sense when you feel like there is something is trained on you?
No. It was more like God. Let this be over. Yeah. Let this be over. Let's just do this and let it be over. And going into the White House and sitting with Obama in the great big press room and hearing the big speech about Maker Faire and all the stuff and the United States and everything happening, his little presentation was far more fun than actually being with him myself. That was just nerve-wracking. Yeah. And it was over too soon. It happened too quick, and it was over too soon. But it happened. It's all there. I see it on film, and I go, God, is that really me? Did that really happen? But here's the part that was the really the clincher of all this was, I was told, you shake his hand, that's it, you're done, and you do your thing, and then he's going to be gone. It's going to be 10 minutes at the most. I'm like, okay. And he was around me with the giraffe, and we were talking, and he was doing, and I, at that moment, I decided I was going to take a chance, and I petted the giraffe, and I go, you see, if you pet him, he talks to you. So if you, that's right, I didn't pet the giraffe. Yeah. I didn't. I said, if you pet the giraffe, he will talk to you. And I go, right there, you see the little pet sensors? If you pet those, he'll talk to you. And I go, go ahead, it's all right. And he reached up and he petted the giraffe. And that's what I wanted more than anything else in the world. I wanted him to touch the damn thing. Yeah. And he reached up and he petted the giraffe, and the giraffe spoke to him with Russell's voice. And he's like, oh, he's got a bit of an accent. And England went fucking insane. England went nuts over that. Yeah, they went nuts. They were like, you recognize English, everybody, and it became suddenly a huge political moment between America and England, and England had a lot of fun with it. But when it was all said and done, he was like, well, I gotta move on, to the next exhibit, but let's get some pictures, with the press right here. Yeah. I said, oh, okay. And I stood respectfully next to him, and there's this huge contingent of press, and everybody's laying on the ground, and all these cameras and photographers are going like crazy. And I stood next to him, respectfully, and he looks at me and he goes, no, come here. And he puts his arm around me. And I put my arm on his back, and you can see my fingers on his back. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm arm in arm with the leader of the free world. And that was not in the script. That was amazing. Absolutely not in the script. Being that close to him, it was always going to be face to face, with a distance. Yeah. And he turns to me and he goes, no, come here. And he puts his arm around me and pulls me against him. And I'm just like, don't pass out. And I was just couldn't believe it. I'm like, holy crap. I'm in arm in arm with, the first black president, so many firsts. And here I am. Yeah, holy crap. Amazing. And it all went down. And then next thing you know, we're packing it all up and we're going home. And we were in the White House, and it was fantastic.
I mean, where do you go after that?
That was the thing. Where do I go after that? So the giraffe has a number of upgrades planned for him where I'm working with aluminum now. So we're going to get working with aluminum to build lighter components for him. So he can put more stuff on him. That's one of the consequences of building something like this is the more you add on to it, the more it gets heavier and heavier and heavier, and then things start to break down. So next thing you know, I'm going to rebuild that whole neck and head assembly out of aluminum. Yeah. And then I want to break the neck up into 7 segments. So he has a real segmented neck. So he can swing his neck back and forth like a real giraffe. Yeah. And so all these things that we're going to build in there, we're going to build just like a real giraffe. And it's gotten to the point now where, I'm getting calls from schools to go and do presentations to children and talk to them about both giraffe and robots and, the differences between the two. And I can show them, that all the teeth on the giraffe are anatomically correct. And he has 32 teeth like you and me, and it's a fun educational thing for the kids. Totally. And Rancho Santa Fe Schools is my 3rd year in a row teaching kids there, and they hire me every year to come out and spend a full day with the kids and have a lot of fun, and they pay me nicely. Yeah. So it's actually moving along, and I could never have possibly imagined that when I went to Burning Man and decided I would build a robot giraffe to run around and play music on and give pretty girls rides.
It's the ultimate art car success story. It's not going to get any better than this.
We ended it. The fucking thing ended up on the White House lawn.
That is fucking amazing.
And I have every bit of that to thank for Maker Faire. And then also Maker Faire then took him right after that because of all the momentum and all that. And we had the shipping container. We took him right back to New York for the World's Maker Faire at the old World's Fairgrounds. And we took the giraffe out to the Unisphere, which was just unbelievable. Yeah. Here we were on the grounds of the World's Fair, running around with the giraffe, and we just ran off into the park, where cars are not allowed to go. We just drove off into the park, and the cops were there, and the cops saw us, and they were like, "Oh well, I guess he belongs here." Yeah. Because how do you quantify a giraffe? My God. They weren't going to bust us, and so we went driving right up to the Unisphere with this thing, and
it's really incredible.
And we didn't even ask permission; we just went. And we just did it.
This has been such an incredible story because, it's funny. I knew that you were going to end up. I know how the story ends, and yet I was still on the edge of my seat in those final moments.
Yeah, the every single thing that happened to get that thing to the White House and back.
So many miracles.
Was a 100% everyday miracle for 15 to 20 days in a row. It was a miracle every single day. Every day something terrible was happening. Or every day something hopeful was happening, and it just looked like there's no, how can we make this happen in such a short time? And every single thing, like, if the diesel truck had broken down, if he'd gotten a flat tire, it would have been over. If the truck had broken down bringing the container down from LA, it would have been over. If they delayed the container by 1 day, it would have been over. The container showed up, and the next day we put the giraffe in it, and the next day it was picked up and thrown. And every single thing we were doing was something we had never done before. Never done it before. And it all clicked into place like a well-oiled set of gears. And I couldn't be more happy and more appreciative of Luis and Alan for making that happen. Luis and Alan were the ones that made that happen.
This entire adventure, like you said, like the space program, like you cross that bridge when you get there. Just do it until you get to this thing, and then see what happens from there.
There's a photo. It's possible that it's on the website, but I'll have to double check and see. And if it isn't, I'll have to find the photo and stick it on the website. And it's one of the most evocative photos of the entire giraffe project. And what it is, it's a photo taken that I took on the back of the giraffe at sunset at Burning Man, and what I shot was the reverse, looking at the giraffe's spindly shadow on the playa. And here is this unbroken dirt, perfectly pristine, with the shadow of the giraffe on it. And you see all the skeletal silhouette of the giraffe in shadow. The exact same photo was taken by the astronauts on the moon from the lunar module on the moon, and the two photos are identical. You see the lunar module with its 4 legs, and the astronaut gets the shot of the shadow of the lunar module on the moon. And I have identical photograph to that. And that's what the giraffe is. It's my spacecraft. It picks me up. I'm just holding on to the tail of this thing now as it drags me around from adventure to adventure. I've created something that it has a life of its own.
That's incredible.
And it's absolutely the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Lindsay, thank you so much for telling us the story. You've been such an amazing guest.
Thanks.
This is absolutely wonderful.
You got to come over more often.
So cool. So cool. I want to thank you guys. No, and I know he has more stories to tell. We're gonna get into it later.
I heard a rumor about a dragon.
We are not getting into the dragon right now.
We could.
We're not. We're not getting into the dragon. This is going to be the next show that we'll do because there's other stories I want to get into, but we've got the arc of this one.
Yeah, the story.
We're going to have you back on though.
The story is if I don't want to, if I'm not going to take the giraffe to Burning Man anymore, what else? What am I going to take?
And there's
to
a dragon.
Man? How do we top the giraffe? And that's the dragon.
That's the dragon. Well, hopefully we'll get you back on here to get into the dragon. Lindsay, thank you so much. It's been really incredible. Fucking amazing. Love it. Love it. Thank you
so much.
All right, there it is. That's our story. You can tweet me directly at Mr. Arash, and when discussing the show, please do use the hashtag Burner Podcast. You can also catch me on the Crappy Awesome Podcast. That is a weekly interview show and a staple in the independent hip hop community for over 4 years, for like 5 years, like 200 something episodes, 230 episodes. Find it over at platformcollection.com. Shows are up on these shows. Burner Podcast is up on Libsyn and SoundCloud first. Libsyn is the broadcasting platform, and then SoundCloud is where you can download it and hold on to the episode for your own very personal collection. Then it gets distributed over to iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn.com and Spreaker. So there you go. That's leave some reviews for us on iTunes. It really does help the show get more exposure. That would be very kind of you. Our intermission music is by Duckman. You can check out his music over at duckmansd.bandcamp.com. And if you're a musician in the community, tweet your music over to our music editor. He is Navjeet at I am Navjeet. Maybe you'll get some play over at Alkaline. This episode is produced by Meg King. If you have any questions or suggestions for future guests, shoot them over to Meg King. She is on Twitter at @ThatMegKing. The Burner Podcast theme song is America's Horse with No Name remix, produced by Joman. Check out his music over at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman. Our online editor is Tanasi. He writes and curates the blog. You can reach him by shooting him a message over at burnerpodcast.com. Hope you'll join us next time. We do release new episodes on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. So until next time, love and light and all that other crap. Good night.